Over on my second channel, I am reacting to your guys' hot takes 2 times a week. It's one of my favorite types of videos to do, and over there, it's one of your guys' favorite videos to watch. In fact, consistently, it is your favorite videos to watch. But I have a few hot takes of my own, so I figured I would dedicate them to a video for the 2024 season. Let's get into it. Real quick before I get into this video, if you end up enjoying it, please be sure to subscribe for 3 videos a week. Also drop a like, it only takes 1 second. It makes a massive difference in how this video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also real quick, if you have not checked it out already, I've started a Spurs My GM series, My NBA series over on my 2K channel. It's a realistic rebuild going over the Victor Wembanyama era. Just did episode 4, should be out today. So go check that out. It would be much appreciated. It's one of my favorite things that I do. Now, I want to give just one quick disclaimer, really, the main disclaimer here. When it comes to how I view hot takes, I want this to be something that I genuinely believe is very achievable. Maybe not something I would necessarily put a bunch of money on, but a potential outcome that would not shock me by any means, when I'm sure it would shock a lot of other people. For a lot of people, these takes might not be hot, but depending on who you're talking to, they absolutely are. With that said, let's get into hot take number 1, which is the Sixers will be better without James Harden. Again, not necessarily something that I would put a bunch of money on, but it wouldn't necessarily shock me if this roster, just having its options divided up more into other players rather than it being divvied to James Harden, could ultimately result in, if not a better team, at least a comparable team to what the Sixers are with James Harden. Now, that's not to diminish the talent that James Harden brings to the table, but rather just how much I believe in, for example, Tyrese Maxey to take a far more extended role, a far more prominent role in the offense. A lack of James Harden gives more opportunity for other role players to step up. Tobias Harris would probably have a better season just because he's now a 3rd option rather than a 4th option. I definitely don't think it's a significant likelihood, but I could definitely see them putting the pieces together to make this happen. Sometimes it's not even necessarily about having the talent. Sometimes things just click the right way, and I don't know, I have a sneaking suspicion that could happen here. Number 2, OKC will win 50 plus games this year, and SGA will be a very high MVP candidate, and screw it, I'll even say he's going to win it. SGA was, I believe, 5th in MVP voting in this previous year with a 500 record. The team had a better than 500 win percentage when he actually played. I also feel a lot of good things about OKC in general going into this year. I think Chet Holmgren can make an immediate impact. I think Jalen Williams will have a 2nd-year leap. I think Josh Giddey is due for a 3rd-year leap. I really like a lot about this roster, not to mention that if they do start the season hot, they have a lot of draft capital if they want to go ahead and pursue more of a winning season and just, you know, maybe get like an OG Anunoby type of player, for example, just to throw that out there. And if that happens, I think 50 wins is very achievable, and I think SGA putting up the insane box score stats that he does, if he's doing that while leading his team to a top seed in the West, you can't help but consider that guy for the award. It's pretty unavoidable. I think he'd have a very, very, very strong case. Take number 3, Dallas will be considered a legit contender by the end of the year. So there is a lot of factors at play here, and there is good reason to not be super high on the Dallas Mavericks. They definitely feel like the biggest wild card this season because there is obvious talent there, but is the roster construction necessarily good enough to actually put out a winning product? As we well know, Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic equals ridiculous offense. You could really just put 3 accountants out there with those two, and they'd probably still post a better than average NBA offense. That said, they have put pieces around them that should be better than 3, what did I say, postmen, whatever, garbage men. Either way, Grant Williams can be a good catch and shoot option, as can Josh Green. And I do think that Derek Lively, the rookie center that they drafted in the lottery this year, I realize it's a lot of pressure to put on a rookie big, and it's kind of a hard thing to bank on, but I really liked what I've seen of him from what little I have seen of him. Of course, I'm never really going to make any strong judgments until I see it actually play out in the NBA, but I think there's reason to believe that he can be what the Mavericks need him to be on both ends of the floor pretty damn soon. Centers, especially early on in their career, I think have a better floor than other positions. A center not necessarily shaping up isn't necessarily as detrimental to your offense as a guard, but I guess for your defense it can be. But I think Derek is at the bare minimum going to be a good defensive player. His offense is really more the concern than anything else. But I really do think that he could be quite good and quite impactful for them, specifically impactful to what Dallas needs. And I think, Grant Williams and Josh Green, they're both pretty positive defenders. Definitely positive defenders. I'm just, do they get to the category of like really good defenders? I think often they can meet that mark, more often than not even. And if Derek Lively ends up being a very, very good defender, they put good defenders around Luka and Kyrie. Maybe not as good as is conceivably possible, but still good to the point where I think Dallas could be a league average defense. And if you put a league average defense next to a top 3 offense, that can definitely be a team that looks like a very legitimate contender. I think right now they're definitely in more likely than not kind of a boom or bust type of thing where they might win 40 games and it probably means that Luka Doncic's future in Dallas will be short from here, or I could see them winning like 55, 57 games even if they play their cards right. It's a lot of talent to just deny. Not to mention you got Jaden Hardy coming off of the bench, who I'm a big believer in, Tim Hardaway Jr., Seth Curry, who are great catch and shoot options. I think their other rookie first round player is a defensive guy who could potentially be a rotation player. I like what Dallas is doing. Derek Jones Jr., I really liked him. I liked their off season. It could have been better, but I think they did a good job, and Luka and Kyrie is good enough to, bank your merit on that. Take number 4, Jordan Poole will average 28 plus points per game, maybe even 30. This one is just basically Jordan Poole's gonna empty the clip. What else can he really do? The Wizards don't have much in terms of prospects going into this year. They're not really trying to be a winning team. They're definitely trying to get a high lottery pick after the Bradley Beal era, but they do have to have someone shoot the ball, and they do have to have someone sell the tickets. And Jordan Poole putting up 30 points a night might not result in winning basketball, but it would result in entertaining basketball. And they banked on something very similar to that when they had Bradley Beal. Now that resulted in more so mediocre play rather than just outright bad play, but for the most part, the selling point of a Wizards game for a couple of years was, hey, you can watch Bradley Beal put up 33 points. It's probably going to be in a loss or like a win that probably shouldn't have been as close as it was, but it will be a cool performance from Bradley Beal. Same thing can be applied here. I think there is good reason to believe Jordan Poole will be getting the most shots on the Wizards. I can't imagine they would give that honor to Kyle Kuzma. Maybe, but I really doubt that. Jordan Poole could potentially be a real future asset for them, a real future player for them, and they don't have much of that on the roster. The other players on this team that are good are like getting into their mid to late 20s, so there's not much of a long-term future with them. So Jordan Poole is going to get the opportunity, and I think he's the type of guy who would happily put up points while not actually winning that much. Not that I'm saying he doesn't like winning, but he definitely does like scoring. And last but not least, take number 5, there are 11 50-win level teams in the Western Conference. Conveniently, it is actually the 1 through 11 seed from this previous season, but I believe every team in that group has a roster that is good enough to win 50 games. Now, of course, that can't happen for everyone. There's been times in the Western Conference where the 8th seed was like a 50-win team, and I think even the 9th seed was like a 49-win team, but it's not going to extend all the way to 11. There's just simply not enough wins out there. I do think that every team that is going into this year with in that bracket of the previous top 11 seeds, I do think that that team and the players and the coaches and the fan base should have every reason to believe that 50 wins is achievable. Obviously, there are some teams where that is more so the case than the others. Easily the weakest link here to me is the New Orleans Pelicans. But the Pelicans, if they are healthy, do have a roster that absolutely can compete for 50 wins. When they were healthy and Zion was playing in this previous season, they were on pace for over 50 wins, and then injuries happened. So injuries will ultimately probably be the undoing of the Pelicans that would prevent them from getting there, and that's probably going to be the case for a couple of teams where injuries is ultimately going to be the deciding factor. That often is how it is, but there are a lot of very, very, very good teams in the West, and all of those guys have a chance to win 50 games. But yeah, that is it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. Again, go check out that Spurs My NBA series, but that's it. Goodbye.